And we welcome you into Dodgers Daily for Sunday, August 28th. I'm so glad that you've decided to tune in. I'm Casey Porter of Dodger Poke Report. There was a lot of great action last night down on the farm. Oklahoma City got out to an early lead. They tried to give it away in the late innings again, but held on in front of a big crowd in downtown Oklahoma City at Bricktown Ballpark and beat El Paso, the AAA affiliates of the Padres, 9-8 at Bricktown Ballpark in front of almost 9,000 people. So it was a great crowd last night. I was there. It was a whole lot of fun. AA Tulsa and High A Great Lakes, well, neither one of them scored, but there was some good pitching. Landon Knack had a very good start for Tulsa last night. He's had a frustrating go at it here in the last month. He's worked really hard to get back at it and rehab to get back on the mound, and he threw very well last night. We have a quote from him that we will give you during this podcast, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Great Lakes, really, there weren't a whole lot of highlights last night. Luis Diaz had the only hit for them. Emmitt Smith really was the only pitcher that threw a 0, so not a whole lot of highlights for Great Lakes last night. They did not score, but there were a lot of highlights for Rancho Cucamonga. Taylor Young got it started in the first inning. He hit the first pitch of the game off the left center field wall, got the tone set, and Rancho just dominated from there. So there was a lot of great action last night. Let's not waste any more time, and let's take a trip down on the farm. I wanted to start this podcast and the Oklahoma City part of it by saying kudos to Oklahoma City and all of the people that work relentlessly to connect with the community with the Oklahoma City Dodgers, because it was another great crowd, as you can see in the video that I took last night. And there have been a whole lot of great crowds this summer at the Bricktown Ballpark. It is one of the greatest places on earth. I was there the night they opened up Bricktown Ballpark in 1997. I actually sat in the upper deck in the right field line that they don't use anymore. They actually, you can see it right there, they use it for advertising. I sat right there up there to the right in the top row, 1997 and opening night. I spent many a day down at the State Fair and the State Fairgrounds at All Sports Stadium watching the Oklahoma City 89ers. So it was really cool for me last night to see a big crowd. The Oklahoma City Dodgers last night had a throwback. You can see the baby blue jerseys. They were the Oklahoma City 89ers, so last night was a whole lot of fun for me. If you go to my Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you can see every pitch of Ryan Pepio's first inning that I took with my camera as close up as I could get. I am zoomed in, so it's not the greatest of quality, but you get a pretty good gist of what it looks like to hit a Ryan Pepio 95-mile-an-hour four-seam, which is where he was at last night with his four-seam fastball. He was 85 on the changeup and 83 on the breaking ball. So there is a good look at right-handed pitcher, one of the best pitchers in all of minor league baseball, Ryan Pepio. One of the most underrated players in the system, Devin Mann, extended his hit streak last night to 4 games with his 20th double of the season. You are seeing his entire at-bat, but his double was a 2-out, 2 RBI double for Oklahoma City. It was a big hit in the game. Mann also has hits in 7 of his last 8 games and 10 of his last 12. So as you can see, this is his entire bat, and there is his double. He is so good at taking that pitch on the outer half and just tattooing it into that left center field gap. So there's Devin Mann, a 2-out, 2 RBI, 2-base hit. After hitting for the cycle on Friday evening, James Outman was back at it again last night in Oklahoma City, hitting his 24th and 25th doubles of 2022. Now sit down and listen to this, because this is unbelievable. Outman now is 9 for his last 16, and during that stretch he has a home run, 3 triples, 5 doubles, 12 RBIs, and 4 runs scored, 23 total bases. Let me say that again. In his last 16 at-bats, he has a home run, 3 triples, 5 doubles, 12 RBIs, 4 runs scored, and 23 total bases. Wow. Left-handed slugger Ryan Noda had an RBI base hit, which was his 76th RBI of the season and 21st of this month here in August in just 22 games. His on-base percentage this month, also in August, is .464, and his OPS is .992. This dude, Ryan Noda, just fills up the stat sheet. Here's a good look at Blake Trinan with Oklahoma City and his performance last night. He threw 5 cutters that were 91 to 93, 2 sliders that were 84 to 86, and 5 sinkers that were 96 to 97. And I know Dodgers fans will be very excited to know that he hit as high as 97.9 with his sinker. So Blake Trinan, that right arm and that shoulder is loosening up, and he is approaching 100 miles an hour with his sinker. Here's a good look at Tommy Kanely in his performance last night with Oklahoma City. He threw 8 four-seam fastballs that sat 96 to 97, so he got loose as well, kind of like Trinan. And he had 15 changeups that sat 89 to 91. So Tommy Kanely looked very good last night. His velo was very, very good with AAA Oklahoma City. Catcher Hunter Fiducia had 2 hits and a big RBI for Oklahoma City. He also scored twice in the big win for the Dodgers. So here is how his first hit looked. The young man out of Barb High School in Lake Charles, Louisiana. He went to LSU Eunice out of high school, and then played his last year of college baseball at LSU for Pulmonary for the Bayou Bengals. So there it is, Hunter Fiducia with a big early RBI in last night's big 9-8 win for the Oklahoma City Dodgers over the AAA affiliates of the Padres, the El Paso Chihuahuas. It's always good to beat the Padres in anything. What more can you say about Miguel Vargas? He went big fly again last night for Oklahoma City. It turned out to be the game-winning hit for the Dodgers. At the time, it created separation and gave them a 9-5 lead, but it ended up being the game-winning hit of the game for Miguel Vargas. This was his 16th home run of the year. He is hitting now an even 300 in 2022 and has a 12-game hit streak where he is 17 for 41. A 12-game hit streak where he is 17 for 41. That's 414 during that stretch. So, wow, Miguel Vargas, what a hitter he is. Boy, it was great to see Landon Knack back on the mound. Boy, that is a tongue twister. Hard to say. Say that 5 times really fast. Landon Knack back on the mound, but he has worked really hard. You know, he was off to a good start in 2022, and he's dealt with some injury problems, so he's worked really hard. He is back on the mound, and he was on point again last night for Tulsa. He had just about every pitch of his 4-pitch arsenal working. Last night he went 4 innings. He struck out 3 and walked just 1. So watch the bottom dropout of the last pitch of this video. Knack was kind enough to give a quote. He is going to be the cover of Dodgers Daily for Sunday today, August 28th of 2022. And he was kind enough to give a quote on last night's performance, and here's what he had to say. After working hard to get healthy and get back out there, it felt good to feel things getting locked back in and back on track last night. So it was certainly on track for the East Tennessee State and Johnsonville, Tennessee native Landon Knack for the AA Tulsa Drillers. Although the Drillers, they were not able to muster any offense. They only had 5 hits and no runs. It was good to see a very good start for Landon Knack. It was really good to see Cody Hosey have a good game offensively last night. This is one of his 2 hits that he had for the Drillers. This one broke his bat, shattered it in half. So Cody Hosey had a good night last night for the Drillers, getting 2 hits. Good to see for him. You know, he was very, very hot. He's 250 on the year, but before he got injured there in July, he was very, very hot. He had a couple of game-winning hits. He was well on his way to having a tremendous 2022, and since he's returned, he just simply hasn't gotten back on track. So hopefully last night with the 2 hits will get Cody Hosey, the former first-round draft pick out of Tulane, back on track and back to hitting the baseball the way that he is capable. Last night was simply one of those nights throughout the marathon of a baseball season that you just throw in the trash can, you just simply move on for the Loons. They only had 1 hit. They lost to the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, the high A affiliates of the Padres, 8-0 Saturday night at Dow Diamond in front of 5,240 fans. Again, only 1 hit, and you're looking at it right here from Luis Diaz. Diaz has hits in 7 out of his last 8 games and has 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, 7 runs scored, and 17 total bases during that stretch for the Loons. The highlight of the night on the pitching front for the Loons was left-hander Julian Smith out of Catawba Community College, who threw a scoreless inning for Great Lakes, which marks his 5th scoreless performance in a row and 6th out of his last 7. And during his 5-game scoreless streak, he has 7 strikeouts. So there you go. Julian Smith, the pitching highlight last night for the Loons. The single-A affiliates of the Dodgers, Rancho Cucamonga, have quickly turned into one of the funnest teams in all the minor leagues to watch. They have great young pitching, and, you know, with the infusion of the 2022 draft picks, that has made their position player core very exciting to watch and follow. I have had a whole lot of fun getting to know these 2022 draft picks and watching them mesh with the current roster of the Quakes. They pounded out 14 more hits last night in a beatdown of the Visalia Rawhide, the single-A affiliates of the Diamondbacks. Always good to beat the Diamondbacks in anything as well. They beat them 12-4 in Visalia Saturday night. You're looking at Chris Campos, who had a successful 2-inning start for Rancho. Campos is a 22-year-old 2022 draft pick and was drafted out of St. Mary's, which marks the second year in a row the Dodgers have drafted a pitcher from the Gales out of that program in California. So there you have it, Chris Campos. 2022 draft pick Taylor Young out of Louisiana Tech hit the first pitch of the game off the left center field wall for a double. Something tells me just watching this that he's done that quite a bit before at Louisiana Tech, setting the tone in a positive manner for his team. Young has hits in 4 games in a row and is 5 for his last 17. One of my favorite young players in the system, Taylor Young. Talk about making a splash. Landon Knack, this is his first hit with the Quakes, and as you can see, it was an absolute blast. It went off one of those signs out there in left field. You can check it out in the video on my Twitter, or just watch it here as we're watching it along in the podcast. Don Knack is an 18-year-old that is in his second year in the system. Yes, 18 years old. Just got called up to Rancho from the complex on Thursday. Got his first hit last night for Rancho, and as you can see, it was an absolute bomb of a home run. Well, I got a notification last night that I'm running out of space on my Google Drive to keep all of my video clips that I like to take each night on these young, wonderful baseball players in the Dodgers system. And I'm going to go ahead and give Dalton Rushing a lot of blame for that, because I've had to save like 75 videos in the last week or two, because these 2-hit nights like he had last night have just been almost every night for him. But the thing to note for him last night is that he played first base. So, we've talked about him probably being overqualified at the single-A level with Rancho, but then also him being a catcher at the next level at High A Great Lakes. You have the Dodgers' #1 prospect in Diego Cartaya. So is he blocked? Well, you could throw him there at first base and play him there like you did last night, and then have Cartaya and Rushing on the same roster for the playoff run for the Great Lakes Loons. So we'll see if the Dodgers decide to pull that trigger, but that's certainly an option. He played first base last night. Dalton Rushing did for the Quakes. Griffin Lockwood Powell has been hot this weekend, and he turned in his second 2-hit game in a row on Friday and now Saturday, and has raised his average by 53 points this weekend for the Quakes against Visalia. So there you have it. The Central Michigan alum, Griffin Lockwood Powell, is hot. One of the fastest players in the organization, a good young prospect, Jake Vogel, had 2 hits and a pair of RBIs for the Quakes in their 12-4 win over Visalia. Vogel has 13 RBIs and 24 total bases this month alone in August. So Jake Vogel playing good offense for the Quakes. Luis Rodriguez had 2 doubles for the Quakes, and they both delivered 2 RBIs, so 4 RBIs total. He actually had 5 on the night, 5 RBIs that is, and has 15 RBIs this month and 65 on the year. He has 6 for his last 14 with 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and 9 total bases. So Luis Rodriguez is having a very good month. Madison Jeffrey started his performance last night with back-to-back-to-back sliders for a strikeout. He had 2 Ks in his 3 outs he recorded, and has 10 strikeouts in his 8 innings of work this month, and he's gone scoreless in back-to-back outings. The young man out of West Virginia University, just like Michael Grove, he has big stuff, just has to keep it in the strike zone. I'm glad that you tuned in for another edition of Dodgers Daily for Sunday, August 28th, and I hope that you tune in tomorrow. I also hope that you visit DodgerPokeReport.com, or you visit Dodger Poke on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. I also hope that you become a subscriber to our podcast, Dodgers Daily. Hey, if you like this video, like it, leave a comment, let me know what you think so I can keep providing you content like this in the future. As always, thanks for tuning in, and go Dodgers!